All right, welcome. Today we're diving deep into a mystery that's thousands of years old. We're going to follow the incredible research of Kevin L. Gest to unpack a theory that might just unlock one of history's greatest secrets, the real blueprint of Solomon's Temple. So, let's get into it. Our whole journey kicks off with this really cryptic phrase from an old Masonic ritual. It just kind of hangs there in the air, right? Nothing is wanting but the key. I mean, it's the perfect setup for a good mystery. Right? The key to what? That's the million-dollar question. And according to this theory, the answer is, it's the key to a completely lost understanding of King Solomon, his legendary temple, and exactly why that ancient building is still so important to groups like the Freemasons today. Now, you'd think our story would start in ancient Jerusalem, but nope, we're actually starting somewhere much more modern, a Masonic lodge in Sussex, England. And inside, there's this one very, very strange feature that launched a whole 12-year investigation. I mean, just look at this thing. The sheer scale of it is just wow. This is not just some fancy decoration. It is a massive, 40-foot wide, hand-painted map of the heavens, and it takes up the entire ceiling. And as the author found out, it's not just art, it's a puzzle. So when the author asked the senior members of the lodge, hey, what does this mean? You know what he got? A shrug. Nobody had a clue. That piece of lost knowledge was the first thread to pull. What on earth was this giant celestial map doing here, and what could it possibly have to do with Solomon's Temple, a building so ancient some archaeologists aren't even sure it really existed? Okay, so to even begin to crack the code of this ceiling, we have to do something really important. We've got to stop thinking like we do today and try to see the world through ancient eyes. And for them, everything, everything, started by looking up at the sun. You see, for these ancient astronomer priests, the sun wasn't just some god they prayed to, it was a tool. A massive, unbelievably precise celestial clock. They tracked its movements meticulously, year after year, century after century, and after thousands of years, they noticed something incredible, a slow, almost invisible drift of the sun against the backdrop of the stars. Think about it like this. If you could travel back in time 5,000 years and stand right here on the first day of spring, you would see the sun rise smack dab in the middle of the constellation Taurus, the bull. This was the dawn of the age of Taurus. But here's the crazy part. The sky isn't static. It moves. So fast forward a couple of thousand years to King Solomon's time, and on that exact same day, the sun is now rising with Aries, the ram. This was the age of Aries. And if you go outside today, well, we're now in the age of Pisces, the fish, which is why that symbol is so prominent in certain religions. And, we're slowly inching our way toward that famous age of Aquarius. So what is this giant celestial wobble? Well, it has a name, the precession of the equinoxes. It's this massive, almost 26,000-year cycle caused by the Earth's slow wobble. And the fact that ancient cultures knew about this, it's just mind-blowing. This wasn't some primitive guesswork. This was high-level science, based on careful, multi-generational observation. Okay, so it's one thing to know all this cosmic stuff, but how do you actually build it into a temple? How do you make stone speak the language of the stars? Well, that brings us to our second big clue, the secret language of the master builders. Now, this might just look like pretty patterns, but it was so much more. This was a powerful system called sacred geometry, and get this, all you needed was a simple compass and a straight edge. With just those tools, you could create these incredibly profound shapes that they believed held the secrets of the universe, allowing them to literally build divine harmony right into their temples. All right, let's pull this all together. We've got two huge pieces of the puzzle. First, this deep, deep understanding of how the heavens work. And second, a geometric language to translate that knowledge into a physical form. With those two things in our back pocket, we can finally get to the heart of this entire theory. And here it is. This is the absolute game changer. The theory proposes that Solomon's Temple wasn't primarily a place to go and pray. It was a highly sophisticated scientific instrument. Those famous pillars, Jachin and Boaz, they weren't just for decoration. Oh no, they were key components in a massive celestial device. So how did this giant instrument actually work? It's genius in its simplicity. It was all about the shadows. The midday shadow cast by those pillars was basically a giant perfect calendar. Look at this. On the winter solstice, the shadow stretched exactly 40 cubits, defining the length of the main hall. On the equinox, it hit 20 cubits, marking out the Holy of Holies. The temple's blueprint wasn't on some scroll. It was literally drawn on the ground every single day by the sun. I mean, how cool is that? It's just so elegant. But there's one last piece to this puzzle, a final twist that's been hiding in plain sight for 3,000 years, in the king's name itself. Here's a little bit of trivia that you might not know. According to biblical scholars, the man we call King Solomon wasn't actually born with that name. His birth name was Jedediah. So, why the name change? Where did Solomon even come from? Well, what if the name itself is the final key we've been looking for?
The theory suggests that the name Solomon isn't what we think it is. It's actually a mashup of two ancient words for the two most important things in the sky: Sol, the ancient word for the sun, and Ammon, a name connected to the moon.
And this is where it all clicks into place. The name Solomon wasn't for the man. It was for the building he created. The Temple of the Solomon, the Temple of the Sun and the Moon. The guy-born Jedediah became so famous for this incredible creation that over time, its name became his name. So that just leaves us with this one big, profound thought to chew on. If the secrets of this incredible temple were literally written in the language of the sun and shadows, what other ancient wisdom is out there that we've just forgotten how to read? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if the things we dismiss as just myths and legends are actually a lost science, just waiting for someone to find the right key?